Hi, everyone. It is your girl, Grace. Thank y'all so much for tuning in tonight for conversations with your girl, Grace. You know, I also go by Jonna. My family call me Jonna, but y'all can call me either or, whatever makes you feel comfortable. Um, so we're going to go ahead and get started, but I want y'all to remember that I am here to empower, to motivate, to uplift, to inspire, and to bring y'all out of that darkness into God's marvelous light. So let us get straight into it. We are going in with the first questions, and it is talking about keeping joy in marriage. The first question is how to maintain a joyous relationship with your husband despite feeling lack. How to maintain a joyous relationship with your husband despite feeling lack. We'll turn that down just a little bit. Okay, so let me see if y'all had anything else you want to say with that. Okay, you said how to keep my relationship with my husband joyous when all I feel is lack. Okay, I don't have much details concerning this, but all you feel is lack and you want to know how can you keep joy. So joy is not the same thing as happiness. Joy is a constant state of thanksgiving, a state of gratitude. That's how I look at it. Y'all, please forgive me for my nail. Um, but one thing you can do is if you notice that you've been complaining a lot, because whenever you begin to complain, it dampens the atmosphere. It takes away whatever joy that you could have gotten. So let's just say, let's say you see that flower. It's not like a bouquet, but that vase of flowers right there. Let's say my husband got me that vase of flowers, and if I was just like, dang, like I don't like pink flowers, or I do not like flowers, but instead of finding an issue with the flowers, what you can do is say, honey, I really appreciate this. I really appreciate these flowers. I'm going to go plant them out in the garden or something like that. You know, I'm going to go plant them out in the garden. So it's appreciation. A lot of times it's very easy for us to find fault. And no, I'm not blaming you. However, you are responsible for your own joy. I'm not blaming you for the situation or whatever's going on in your marriage because you haven't even given me that to talk about. But we, you, me, everybody in this world, we're responsible for our own joy. And so we've got to recognize when we have been keeping up complaints or finding a lot of faults instead of finding grace. So point out some things that your husband is doing or is good at, and then acknowledge that and thank him. You can thank God that your husband's alive. You can thank him. You can thank God that he's well. He's still breathing. I don't know if he has a job. Thank him for his job. Thank God that you still got time to work these things out. And so when you begin to start thanking God, that spirit of gratitude, God's presence comes in. That spirit of gratitude is there. You begin to see that you're finding things that you actually like instead of picking out things that you don't like. And so that is a way to keep joy in your marriage. Now, it does take a lot of effort. You have to be intentional on doing that, but it is possible to do. So the next question is concerning exploring polygamy. Very interesting. It was very straight to the point, and it said, is polygamy worth it? I don't think there was anything else that came with that. They just want to know, is polygamy worth it? The quick answer to that question is no. It's not worth it. I don't know if y'all seen Tubi, but whenever polygamy is introduced to a marital into someone who's already married, the person who entered in regretted the fact that they did it. And I know that's just that's a fictional. These movies are fictional, but they're really based on true stories that really happen. A lot of jealousy arises. Just imagine if a man is sharing his woman. Now, if a man is sharing the woman that he loves, 9 times out of 10, he really don't care that much for her. He really does not care that much for her. So, are you wanting to be with another man? You know, do you have a husband, or and then if it's just y'all are just dating and the guy you're dating is trying to introduce polygamy, just don't. I would never advocate for that. Some other people say it's not an issue as long as y'all, let each other know what's going on. But a lot of people are not honest nowadays anyway. So polygamy, never. Even if you look at the stories in the Bible, them women was jealous, very jealous. One of the women they would have were able to have children. The other wife wasn't. So the one who was able to have children made fun of the wife who wasn't. Or you have the wife who wasn't able to have children, but the husband loved her more. So you got all of that fighting and little catty behavior. No, it's not worth it. No, a man who actually really, really loves you, who you want a man who only got eyes for you. A man who can say, I only got eyes for you. To me, that's the type of man I want. I don't want a man who talking about they got eyes for everybody else, because that doesn't make me feel special. So in my opinion, it's not worth it. Not worth it at all. Let me grab a drink. Sorry. The next question is about dealing with addiction. Very tough topic. How to handle a significant other with an addiction problem. So first of all, to me, it depends on what type of addiction it is. Because if it's drug abuse, you got to have boundaries, right? Significant other, if you're married to this person, you have to say what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow. I don't know if you got children or whatever, but there are certain things that children should not be around. Drug abuse is not good anyway, but a child should not be introduced to that, period. So the way you handle it, if it's with a child, you're going to have to support that person from a distance. Do whatever you can, like try to get them into some rehab, some spiritual counseling, or whatever that is. I did just came to my mind, honestly. There was this person who was addicted to drugs. I mean, this was on the news, and he was ready to change. I mean, he did not want to continue on the drugs. I think he had tried rehab and all that stuff. It didn't work. One thing he did was they had some study of where they look. I'm not telling you to do this. This is just what I saw. And they put some type of chip in his brain, and it took the drug addiction completely away. Now, I know you have these religious scholars who are going to say that's the mark of the beast. How are you telling people that there's a chip in your brain? Anyway, look, all I'm saying is this worked for this one person, and I don't know how it is to struggle in an area like that. If it's a drug addict, I don't know how desperate this person is to stop, but people who are desperate to stop, that's an option for them. That's the option that they would want to be prayerful about. But with you going to have to create boundaries and decide what you're going to put up with in your house, and then what you're not going to do. And then you can go from there with how you will help that person from a distance. But then again, I don't even know which type of addiction problem it is, because it could be porn addiction. And to me, if I'm just dating someone and they have a porn addiction, that's not something I want to be around my spirit. And so I would let him go ahead and deal with that. And if I'm available by the time he worked that out, then I might reconsider having a relationship with him. But if I'm not available, I just will continue to pray that God deliver him from that addiction. So the next one is about rebuilding trust. And the question is, how can I trust again? It's a very simple question. You are ashamed about your anger because of your memories. So we're going to see how we can tie that in together. I don't know why you lost trust, but you might want to start with beginning to trust yourself, because when it comes to other people, trust has to be intentional. Like, you have to be intentional on being honest. Now, you can't trust that somebody's going to lie. Somebody who's not willing to change, you can trust that that person is going to lie, right? But when it comes to you, how can you trust again? If you start with focusing on how you can rebuild trust with yourself. If you know that you made a lot of terrible decisions, you were the person who made those terrible decisions, but you are also the person who can decide to do right again. And so if you let yourself down, you can start setting smart goals. Do a goal that you can honestly accomplish. If you, like, for instance, if you said that you're going to, eat healthy, but every day you want to eat an apple, you end up picking up a donut. You can starting small like that. You can say, I'm gonna rebuild trust with myself, my eating habits. Instead of picking up a apple every day, I'm gonna just choose Wednesday. That's the day I'm going to pick up an apple, and I'm gonna eat a donut six other days of the week. So you're gonna start small. Do small little steps. Start small little steps. If you know that you're angry all the time and it brings up bad memories, because of bad memories, one thing I'm gonna tell you I used to do, I used to practice smiling, right? Because I noticed that, and then saying hello, just speaking to people, because I noticed that I would just walk past people and not say anything, which was actually quite rude, because I'm sure I would like them to acknowledge me, right? And you don't have to say something to everybody, but it was just a practice that I noticed. And so I wanted to trust that I was actually able to be kind, right? I was actually able to acknowledge other people, because I could trust that I wouldn't say nothing to them before, but I wanted to trust that I am actually a kind person. I'm actually a person who acknowledges people. So let me start small. And this is what I did. And this was when I was in college. And so I would walk on campus and I would look at someone and I would say hello. But I would not say hello out loud. I said it in my mind. I started saying hello, but it was in my mind. And I would make sure I did that every day until it started to come out my mouth. Because at that point, when I was just saying it in my mind, people did not know that I was actually greeting them, because it was in my mind. But once I verbalized it, they knew, you know, they knew, and I was able to trust that I would be acknowledge people. But it was something small, it was little by little. And so I can't tell you how to rebuild trust, broke your trust. But I can say that you can start rebuilding trust with yourself by deciding to make better choices. Healing for love, that's what this next question is about. And the question is, how do I heal completely to be ready for a real man? I thought that was quite cute. How do I heal completely to be ready for a real man? Let's see if you had anything else you wanted to put with this. You are ashamed of being single and alone. That's interesting. You're ashamed to be single and alone, but then you said, how do you heal completely? One thing about what you said is really good, right? How do you heal completely? You're focused on healing. And that might be why you're single. So I wouldn't be ashamed about that, because a lot of people go into different relationships unhealed and then end up hurting the next person that they're with. So you being single and alone is not anything to be ashamed of. So I would like for you to just think about that. Think about the fact, well, I am trying to heal. And many times it's actually better. Like, you can heal with somebody else, but it's better to focus on my own healing. And so you can start by going to therapy, professional therapy. You can even just do a counselor It can be a spiritual counselor. You know, you can do life coaching. You can get you a mentor, someone to help you get guided through the process of your healing. I know this woman, she has an inner healing ministry. I'm gonna try that out. I'm gonna tell y'all how it is. I think it is a fee, but I've heard she has great results. And we all need some type of healing. But you're going to be the determining factor of if you're ready for a real man, whatever that means. What is a real man to you? What a real man to me is different from what a real man to you is. So you have to decide what that is. And then you have to also decide, especially when you're talking about shame, if you're okay with going into another relationship on your healing journey. And if you are doing that, I know you didn't ask, but a lot of people just go into a relationship unhealed. I don't know how this would come out, but I think it would be honorable if you let someone know what you were going through, to see if they were able to carry that weight of the healing that you had versus just put that on them like that. So anyway, I think you're doing a great job by focusing on your healing before you get involved with a real man. Because if you get involved with a real man and you ain't healed, he might not put up with it, right? So I definitely think you're doing that in the right order. And so we're going to go ahead and go to the next question. And it is about making your partner happy. I thought this was a very interesting question. And the question is, what are the best ways to make your partner happy? Let's see if you have anything else you want to put with this. Okay. You said you're ashamed of seeing your kids dirty. You are ashamed of. Okay, so that means, I don't know why you said that, but maybe um seeing your kids dirty. I wonder why your kids have been dirty. Is it because of the water? You may not have water, may not have access to water. I don't know where you're located. You all, just so y'all know, people who are part of the relationship advice community are from all over the world. So the way that people in America or Canada might be easily able to access water, everybody else is not. Okay, so that's rough, because the resources I was going to tell you about, in America, kids, it shouldn't be dirty because of all of the water that's available here. But I don't know where you're located and all the resources for children who are in need. We have plenty of resources here, and I would tell you to get with me, because when it comes to your child being dirty, that does hurt, right? When you see that your child is dirty, cannot take a shower, that hurts as a mother, as a father. And so you need to message me so I can try to help you get some resources to take care of that, because I'm right along with you. My children, their feet get dirty just by running around in the house sometime if it's not mopped, just because of the dust particles that are in the air. And so, like I said, just message me, Grace, on Facebook, and let me see how I can help you get access to clean water. Okay, so but the question that we're going to pay attention to right now is, what are the best ways to make your partner happy? Okay, so when it comes to making somebody happy, that person has to want to be happy. That person has to want to be happy. And let me turn this on just a little bit. If that person is not taking accountability for their own joy, that can actually put a strain on you. Yeah, it can put a strain on you. And so you can do kind things, right? You can try to serve your partner according to his love language. But even after all of that, if it's a lot, if his happiness is dependent upon you, that's unhealthy. That is unhealthy. Now, if there are some things that you have been doing, like maybe nagging him about certain things, or purposely doing things to get on his nerves or irritate him, if your relationship has been very one-sided, if you have not really considered his feelings, those are things that you can work on, but he has to decide that he actually wants to be joyful. And so happiness is like a certain situation, right? I'm enjoying this right now. Like I enjoy answering you all's questions based on my personal experience and just how I process information. But this is only an event, right? This is not going to last forever, not this session, not me sitting here answering your question. But what can last is my joy. And I can just be thinking about the things that God has done. So, and I'll be able to continue to be joyful because he's been good to me. And so, if your partner wants to be happy, and we're talking about a particular event, then you could throw him a party for his birthday if that's what he wants. Or if you just want to surprise him with a nice date somewhere, or you want to get him a nice gift to make him happy for the moment, then those are the things that you can do to make him happy. But he's responsible for his own joy. And you got to make sure that, the weight of his happiness is not on you. Because a person who mad, a person who depressed, they have to decide that they no longer want to feel that way. And don't beat me up for people who suffer through depression. I've been depressed at different times through my pregnancies, and I know it's very tough, right? But when I mean decide, I mean you got to know that you don't have to stay like that, because there is help. Even if you feel like that, even if you feel like there is no hope, just know that's a lie, because there is hope. I understand how people who are depressed feel, but there is hope. So you can speak life into him and let him know that there is hope. And of course you can pray for him, but his happiness, you don't want that to be dependent on you. It's something that will be too heavy for you to be able to carry. So we're going to go to the next question, and it is about rushing into marriage. This was very simple. The question was, am I rushing into marriage? And so if you have to ask that question, I'm not going to say every time, but sometimes you probably are, right? You probably are. And you could be asking about if you're rushing, not necessarily because of the time frame of you being with this person, but because this person might still be working on something that is not acceptable to you. They might be working on trying to fix something that you're like, if we do not get this fixed, then we can't get married. But hey, what if he's like, no, I want to go ahead and get married? And then you could feel rushed because it's like, no, like this is not even settled yet. And so in that instance, I mean, you could be rushing. I don't really know how long you've been with this person. I definitely now, because look, I give y'all experience, I give y'all advice based on what I have gone through myself. I would not recommend getting married to someone before 1 year of actually dating them and being able to see how they are when they're upset, if they are able to truly keep their demeanor for a full year. I got married after 4 months. I knew the person longer than that, right? But we didn't start dating until was it 4 months? Or was it 5 months? It could have been like 5 months or something like that. But it's not like I didn't know that person, right? I knew that person before then. And we were friends before we started to date. It wasn't just, oh, I'm just dating you. No, we were friends first. So I would say probably like a year, if that was the case. But anyway, I don't want to say that. But I would say a year of knowing that person. But actually it was more than a year. But anyway, marriage is forever. So you got to be very careful when you marry somebody. If you don't want to do it forever, just date, right? But that's one of the most serious choices that you can make. I'm a wedding officiant. I marry people all the time. And I see people who are about to get married that I'm like, I'm going to marry you because you asked me to. But in my heart, I'm like, this person don't need to be getting married. But, if you got to ask yourself that, take your time, okay? So the next question is about trust and indifference. The question is, can a relationship work when one partner damages the trust and doesn't care? Can a relationship work when one partner damages the trust and doesn't care? Now, if he don't care, Damages to trust how? It's going to be very difficult to work with somebody who does not care that they hurt you. It's going to be very difficult, and you can grow in resentment. You can become bitter, angry, and filled with unforgiveness and rage. So, can a relationship work? It depends. Do you just want to survive, or do you want to thrive? And to me, y'all might be able to hold it together by a thread, but I don't see, full transparency. You want full transparency in your relationship in order for it to work. Full, total, complete transparency. And if a person is not willing to be transparent with you, they're not willing to work on the trust that they damaged, that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one. Let me see if you had anything else you wanted to say with this. You said, is it possible for a relationship to work when one partner damages the trust and doesn't care if the other trusts them or not? Ooh. Okay, so okay, so you said you were ashamed about how much, or I don't know if you do, is this a shame or is this regret? I think this is probably, this is a shame. You said you are ashamed of how much you tolerate from your husband. Now, this is your husband. Now, there have been some wives who let their husband continue to cheat on them. I don't know if that's how he damaged his trust. I don't know if he damaged the trust by giving away all y'all money, or losing it to gambling. But you're going to have to put some serious boundaries on this, because I don't know what it is, but I've seen women who, for the sake of staying married, because they say God hates divorce, God hates infidelity, God hates adultery. So come on now, let's be real with what God really hates. But God hates divorce. Look, I don't know what your partner did, but I'm gonna tell you this: if it's your husband, you need to pray to God and ask him for guidance on how to do this, because this is some serious stuff when it's someone who you feel locked and bound to, who is not, well, they don't even care. You don't care. That's the big one for me, because with me, it's like, you need to care. You need to care, because if if you don't care, then you might continue to go astray. And then I'm gonna get to a point where I'm not saying I will, but I don't want to get to a point to where I don't care, so pray about that one. The next question is about commitment issues in men over 50. Very vague question. It says, why do men over 50 often avoid committed relationships? The thing about it is, every man over 50 doesn't, because there's clearly men over 50 who are in committed relationships and who are married, right? But let's see about the ones who are no longer married, right? So maybe if they're 50, they've already been married and divorced. They've already been in committed relationships at some point, and they lost trust. And so I can't say this for all men over 50, but I would say to the man who you are referring to, sometimes it's best to directly ask that man, why are you avoiding commitment? What is it? And then, do a survey. I think I might end up doing a survey. Do a survey on men over 50 and see what the most common answer is. And then, either see, how you can adjust to their response. Or you can say, I don't have to date nobody over 50. I'll go younger. But either way it goes, I would say you have to ask them, because I'm not a man. But let's see if you had anything else you wanted to say with this. You said you are ashamed of letting a relationship that wasn't a relationship keep going and falling for him. That happens, especially with the friends with benefits relationship that people often ask me about. Yeah, I could see why, but I definitely wouldn't live in shame. You learned this for a reason. Most times, just so you won't do it again, right? And then so you can learn something about yourself. You can learn, hey, I don't like that type of relationship. I don't want friends with benefits because I realize I really want more than that. So it's a learning lesson, and not just for you, but for other people who may be about to do something like that. You'll be able to give them some wisdom that you gained from experience. So, the next question is about feeling unheard. This is the last question. It reads, at what point do you feel like your spouse just doesn't hear or care about what you're saying? I thought that was very interesting. And then you didn't have anything else you want to say with that, but if you've been talking to your spouse throughout the day and you notice you have to keep on repeating yourself, like if you were talking, telling him about your day, and then and you said, "What you think about that?" And he like, "Huh?" And you trying to say, "You didn't hear what I said?" And he like, "No, repeat that." You're like, "Okay, I'm gonna repeat it." And then let's just say you keep having to repeat yourself all throughout the day. At that point, he ain't been listening to you because you kept having to repeat yourself all throughout the day. So I will be questioning, do you not want to talk to me? Is that what it is? Then who I'm supposed to talk to? You want me to be talking to another man? You ask him that, see what he gonna say, but no. But seriously, at what point would you feel that your spouse just doesn't hear you or what you're saying and doesn't care? Let's say after you told him that, hey, I've been talking to you all day and I keep having to repeat myself. What's up with that? After you talk to him about the situation, will he change? Will he change? Right? I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta readjust. Y'all ain't tell me that was hanging down. But will he change? Will he make adjustments? Right? Will he make adjustments to the things that you're saying? And that's how you'll know if he really cares, if he makes adjustments. But anyway, those were all of the questions that I had for you today. Great questions. I'm sorry, y'all. Very quite simple today, but we've got lots more for you. Because it's so many questions and because it takes some time for me to get this show together, I am just going in the order that they have been received. I'm no longer going to be picking the best ones that y'all might want to hear because I have to go in the order that they will receive, or I'll be putting the show together for way too long. But anyway, I do look, people are signing up for live therapy. I'm sorry, y'all, we had to skip this Monday because of scheduling issues. However, we should be on next Monday for the live therapy. It will be supposed to be airing every other Monday at 8:45 p.m. The registration to join live therapy is in the link below. And just remember, you all, this is like talk therapy, an opportunity for you to get advice, for you to get a free coaching session, or and just even before we do some counseling, even before the session goes live. So it's a chance. And when I say counseling, y'all, it's unlicensed. I'm an ordained minister. I do counseling. Okay. I even do premarital counseling and can do it if you want to get married. But praise God. I just want you all to come and show up, pour your heart out as much as you can on camera, because we will do a little bit before camera, some things that you may not want to share on live camera. But get healed, get delivered, get set free, break out of that darkness that you've been in, and just come sign up. But the next thing I have for y'all is a free ebook. You all. It's about managing relationship anxiety. If you have been suffering from the fear of abandonment, if you feel like you've been too clingy, and whenever your spouse or your boo is not around, you feel like you got to text them a million times because you just concerned. Look, this ebook is for you, and guess what? It is free. It's free 99. It's free 99. So look, y'all, I got some good stuff for you. If you're not a part of the relationship advice group, get a part. I share a lot of different free things with y'all, different articles that you can read to help you sort out whatever issue you got going on. And I just give y'all different encouraging posts throughout the day. If y'all haven't joined one of our chats, you can join, but please don't be putting no spam in there because I don't want to have to ban you from the group. Anybody who puts spam in the chats, they get banned. They don't just get removed from the chat, they get banned. So please do not do that, but just join if you want to talk. But thank y'all so much. Remember, submit your questions by every Wednesday night. I did say Tuesday, but it can be Wednesday night because sometimes I pre-record. Okay. But anyway, go ahead and submit your questions so I can get you on the next Conversations with Grace schedule. Until next time, bye.